How's it going, everybody?
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Heroes Hype Live, Heroes Hype show where we talk about the amateur scene and competitive HOTS and basically anything Heroes related that we find interesting. I am Maybe Buzz, I am one of your hosts, and joining me as always is my favorite person in HOTS, Grizz.
How
Hi
are we doing today?
Grizz. Good. How have you been lately? I feel like it's been like forever.
I know we had some unfortunate circumstances that, we couldn't do the show, and Aether's
We
been.
had America Day, so.
Yeah, well, I was referring to Aether being gone, but
Oh.
yeah, that was one of the good circumstances that we couldn't do the show. But yeah, we had Aether who's over in Europe right now, so um
Yeah, he's like adventuring. I keep like watching his adventures on he's like it's like they're always so funny too. He's always like he gets himself in these like random situations, I feel like. But it's been fun watching him wander around. Though he's kind of a traitor for going to like Britain for America Day.
That's true. That is true. Well, I
So
think he should. Well, we'll have him back here soon enough, but for the time being, it is just going to be yourself and I doing the podcast, holding down the fort. Um, let's just jump right into it. So,
yeah. So okay, I kind of have a bone to pick first. We'll start this one off. I have not have you been a winner yet on the Suns Out Guns Out thing?
no,
Me neither. And I just want that stupid email that everybody gets that's like, you're a winner with Tychus and his Speedo or whatever. But
yeah,
I'm pretty sad about it. I've played every day. Not really. I say that. But I've been better about playing every day because of the event. So that's kind of cool.
yeah. I have not been a winner either. I wish I got that email. It looks like a pretty. I feel like it'd be pretty justifying for playing the games and getting the wins, but um,
A pretty hypey email. Though I guess like the thing is, right, if you don't win in the early section, like can you win twice? Like is it worth it that we haven't won yet? Because then we can get like a big prize at the end.
I don't know. That would be awesome though. That would be all
Yeah.
be worth it. I'll take no email, big prize going to BlizzCon.
Easy,
They can
easy
keep
choice.
everyone else can keep their emails. I'll take the W.
Keep your 5 packs.
Yeah.
We want the big daddy prize. Something else that happened since our last show really is that Stukov dropped. Does it drop? I don't know. It's not an
I don't
album.
know.
It's a hero.
It was the hottest drop this year for
Hottest
Blizzard
drop of the
Heroes.
summer.
Um with that being said though, yeah, I think that he's really good. I've
Yeah.
I think he's a more difficult support to play for some
Hmm.
because I know people have been kind of struggling with him a bit, like not too much, but his trait was overtuned at the beginning. It was almost like an ancestral heal every time he was popping his trait, and you could hit that on your whole team. Like it was a massive amount of healing. I think they tuned that down, or that might have been when I played him on PTR, but I know for that time being he was extremely overtuned. I think they did dial him back a bit because his win rate's pretty normal. I mean, it's on the higher side, but it is normal. Um, but like I said, there's people that I've seen kind of excel with that hero, and other people that seem to struggle. His ults are definitely interesting because he doesn't have a support ult, in
Hmm.
which kind of does make it interesting. If you look at all the heroes across the board, they generally do have, something that would provide healing or mitigation or something. But he has kind of these CC, these crowd control ultimates to deal with team fights, so that's interesting.
Yeah, he seems just like a lot to deal with. I've been seeing him a lot in like my rank. So like he basically is like 100% inclusion rank in gold, the gold league that I've,
Hmm.
from the last few days I've been playing. And it seems like it's really hard for people to play around him. They just like they don't know what to do about the silence. Nobody really knows like how to counter him yet. I mean, and that like is there what have you found has been the most successful against him?
His shortcomings are the same as Malfurion. If you
Mhm.
can bait out the burst healing that his trait gives, and then you can re-engage, or you find a way to lock him down or silence him or do pretty much any CC on him, that's
Right.
going to stop, obviously, the healing output. So his big weakness is the same as Malfurion's, I would say, and that is just getting a teammate blown up. He doesn't have
Mhm.
any of those any of those panic button ultimates like we were talking about. So if you can deal with the ultimate, it depends on which one he takes. So if he's taking the one that's going to be pushing you away, like just the single target,
So annoying. Yeah.
you could still blow him up because for that time being he has to channel that. So, or he'll use the SWAT, which is gonna, push back enemies that are trying to kill his team. So he has ways to kind of deal with getting blown up. But if you can find a way around that or just lock him down, then that's the best way.
Yeah, and I've also found that he's been like done really well on like maps like Cursed Hollow or even like shrines and temple, just because it's like whenever you have to contest like that single point or those few points and he puts that's AoE silence down, like you can't get around it. Like you have to like walk through it, make the decision to walk through it or back out. And it's like it's a lot of like he creates a lot of space, which I think is really, really like an interesting aspect to him as a support.
Yeah, that does open him up to like Artanis swap or Stitch's hook, things of that nature too, because a lot of his moves he's kind of standing still. And so you can kind of play around that maybe a little bit to kind of blow him up. But yeah, all in all, I think he's extremely strong. I think we're going to see him in competitive play. And
really? Like as soon as he's live, like
yeah,
it's not this week, but next week is the week that he sort of like becomes playable for everybody. So
yeah, I think 100% he'll be like right away. And I feel as if he might fit really well into kind of that double support meta that's happening right now, because he can just throw the hots on people.
Who do you pair him with?
You can pair him with another support, or what carry
would
you pair him with?
No, yeah, with like if you're gonna put him in the double support meta, which is like really prevalent right now, right? We're seeing it a lot. Is it like, do you put him with Uther? Do you put him with Kharazim? Like, are those the two? Because I feel like you wouldn't want to stack him and Melf, right? Because it's too much of the same thing. Or is it like enough of the same thing that you have enough hots that no one's gonna die?
I think you put him with someone like Uther. I think Uther's really like Uther Rhaegar would be
right, because you have that big, you have Divine Shield or Ancestral, right, to sort of counter the blow up issue.
And you have Cleanse too, which is which is a huge deal. But I mean, he kind of fills gaps where other supports do struggle. I mean, we saw in certain games that Lunara has just so much success against Uther because Uther cannot keep up with the constant damage that's coming out. So that's that's going to deal with the Lunara damage if you were to pick it in a double support comp. So then your hyper carry would have just constant healing bouncing onto him, as well as the nuke heals, Divine Shield if he needs to kind of escape or if he gets dove.
Yeah, because I feel like even though the meta is it's in like this weird place, it's a lot of like reactionary encounter things right now. Like Stitches being so like having that huge inclusion rate, like really makes a lot of like burst comps possible, but at the same time, like we see those like anti-burst supports. So it's like it's interesting, kind of like the development stage that we're in right now. Like, are we going to go back to like double warrior? Are we going to stay in this double support thing that's happening? Like, I guess like as we like ramp up into mid-season brawl, there's going to be like different, everyone's sort of like going to pick what's working best for them to put their best foot forward going into that. So
yeah,
and it's like
I think
across the board.
I think he will get play like almost immediately.
Yeah, you think like as soon as we're gonna start seeing him, as soon as they're on that patch for HGC, we're gonna see him?
Yes. I would almost guarantee that, like almost immediately. A lot of the support players too are having a lot of fun with him. He is kind of, like I said, more of a support that has a higher skill ceiling. I would say you can do more with that hero if you are better at that hero. There's certain heroes, like not to take anything away from what Uther can do, but as of right now, if you can play Uther,
like niche.
If you can play Uther like decent, like you'll get close to the same effect as if you were maybe not playing him to that full potential. But I think heroes like Stukov is where it'll separate maybe some of the support players.
A higher game IQ hero.
Yeah,
that makes sense. Yeah, because Uther's like pretty easy, point and click's done.
He used to be harder because he used to have so many
1,000 abilities,
billion buttons going on.
I still play Piano Uther. I know I'm not supposed to, but I really like it. It's more fun. All right, so that's, I think it kind of like catches us up, really. I'm like, what's gone on in Heroes like the past few weeks? Except for, and this is kind of like what I even want to talk about the most today, is sort of like there's been a lot of like tournament chaos lately. The big thing that happened was the Open Cup had like a little bit of a snafu. There was, not everybody had the tournament realm downloaded on the day of the actual tournament, and there was confusion over that. And it really started to make me think, and we've talked about this a little bit before, and I think it's always on my mind from, doing, Heroes Hype the tournaments, is that there is no sort of standardized amateur rule set. It's kind of been like this piecemeal thing of all the different organizations that run amateur tournaments have pulled things from HGC, pulled things from the other tournaments that like worked really well and sort of implemented their own thing. So it's just like, it's really interesting to me is how do we structure the amateur scene in the best way in order to give the greatest success rate for people that are transitioning into pros? And so I think that the tournament realm is one of those things that Blizzard really wants people to play on the tournament realm for a bunch of different reasons. Like it's easier, right?
Yeah, that's definitely something to consider, because when you look at, I can just give examples. When I was playing and we were scrimming HGC teams, they would always play on Tournament Realm. And I remember asking someone, like one of my teammates, I was like, why do you think that is? And they, they're good friends with one of the people on the team. So they asked him and they said, well, this is the realm that we're always playing on. So it doesn't really make sense for them to scrim on live if they're going to be playing on tournament. And that isn't just to say because of the patch difference, because at that point in time, that was when the patches were actually the same. It's because of lag or lack thereof. I would say that the ping is better. The tournament realm does have its own servers, so the ping is always going to be better on the tournament realm. Plus, if you're practicing in that environment, ping does make a huge difference as far as being able to combo abilities. That's why you see when players actually go to LANs, they will get there early and they will be practicing doing their boot camp in the place that they're going to be playing, because the ping makes a huge difference, lower and higher. When you have way lower ping, things are just happening so much faster. So then you actually have to dial back your reaction times a bit.
Right, because so many times you're like anticipating something happen that you have to like precast this, and not even just like did you think some damage is coming in, but because of ping, like you play around the ping.
Yep.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And
then
to answer your second question about how I think tournaments should be run, I think coming up with kind of a standardized set of rules is the only way to keep consistency throughout, because if you're constantly changing it up as an amateur player, then you're kind of always having to stay on your toes, because you don't know what the format's going to be. You don't know if you're playing on tournament or live. Heroes that are available do change. Like, I just don't see, if you're in the amateur scene, why it would be different from the pro scene, because as an amateur, their ultimate goal, most of them, is going to be to try to make it to the HGC Pro division. So I feel like it would make sense to kind of set it up in a way to where you're already playing on the format that pro players are playing on. So that just kind of seems to make the most sense to me.
Yeah, and like I honestly agree. I think that like training people to do something the wrong way and then being like later like, okay, now you're going to do it a completely different way, that just makes no sense to me. It's so non-efficient.
Yeah.
That it just like makes me mad. And then it's like the things like the new hero, there's always like this lag between when a new hero is allowed in play. And I think that part of that is like they're playing on the tournament realm, and tournament realm is a patch, usually like a patch behind, right?
Well, they dictate that. They can make Blizzard can make it whatever patch they want.
Okay.
Just like for dorms, I believe they kept it back like multiple patches because it went on so long that they didn't want. Because from the time groups in dorms started to the time that the teams actually played LAN, they have the ability to dial back patches whenever they want. You see that sometimes when devs actually mess up. If they can't
Yeah.
fix the problem in a timely manner, they'll just roll back the patch. So they can do that
Right.
whenever they want. I do, for keeping consistency in like competition and like letting these players perform at an optimal level, I think you do keep the gap on when heroes are available for play, because if you're practicing it on a certain patch for so long, unless they let you know, I guess
Right.
you would have to practice on PTR. I was going to say unless they let you know when the hero drops, but that doesn't even matter because you will have no practice on that hero.
Right.
So I would say a week, or like probably 2 weeks.
Like within the team environment, how it works with your comps and your play style and all of that, because you can play it by yourself, but it's not like you can scrim. No one's really scrimming on PTR, basically.
Well, it changes drafts substantially too.
Yeah.
Because along with hero releases are generally quite a few balance adjustments, as well as maybe some reworks. I mean, we saw reworks with Thrall, Uther, like all these heroes get reworked. So then that changes. I mean, if you look at pre-rework Uther and his pick rate to Uther now, it's night and day. So it completely changes how drafting works. So they do need time to kind of adjust to that, and then formulate their own draft strategies and how they're going to play, what they think the priority of the hero is. And so yeah, I do agree with the 2 week gap that they give
Me
players.
too. Yeah, and especially like so for Heroes type, since it's a best of one tournament, it makes me really like scared is the wrong word, but like hesitant that somebody could really come in there and like bowl everybody over in best of one's games with a new hero that like not everybody knows how to play against, or not everybody knows how to function with, and it kind of gives this like weird unfair advantage to people who are willing to like buy the hero and play it on PTR before they can actually play it on live. So yeah, I agree that totally. I love that 2 week sort of buffer period. I think is really needed.
Well, it's more than like people not having the hero, because some teams just happen to fall into a meta better than other teams. Like for example, right now double support is kind of the hotness. If you didn't have someone that had been practicing supports other than your main support player, like that meta does not favor you at all. And so if you have to play on it immediately, you then kind of run the risk of being really bad at the strategy that might be the best. If you have that kind of buffer period, you're like, all right, well, you can speculate even when you see the changes, like on PTR, you'd be like, okay, this is probably what's going to happen. So then we can start practicing. Or if it was double tank, or if now you need, X, Y, or Z to happen, you can have your players kind of adapt to that. Whereas if it comes out and you just hit the ground running, you have no idea what's going to happen.
Another thing that like really makes me upset about tournaments, and not upset, is that there's no open tournaments for the HGC Open on the weekends, which is like a really weird thing to me, that it's only on like this Monday, Tuesday, like really structured, that those are the only 2 days, because like Monday, Tuesdays are actually sort of bad days. Like people that have jobs or work on Mondays, like if you live on the West Coast and you have a job, it's really hard to be home at 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
Or 5 o'clock for tournaments. And they actually added another week of the Open because of the whole tournament realm sort of fiasco the last week. And it confused me why they didn't like take that opportunity to run something on the weekend.
Well, being that it is the Open, I think that they don't want to stack it with HGC Pro Division, because that's obviously when the Pro Division is going to be running. It would be more convenient. I think they're trying to they did do that in an effort to possibly make or give higher viewership to the Open Division, because if they were doing Pro Division, Open Division same day, there's the likelihood that people watch the Open over watching the Pro Division's very low.
Right.
Most people are there to see the Pro Division. So I think they tried to find it on an off day. If Monday, Tuesday was their best shot, I don't really agree with that. You could roll into like Wednesday, Thursday or something. So then if you are watching the HGC Pro Division, it kind of rolls through. So your viewing starts Wednesday and goes all the way through Sunday, as opposed to Friday through Tuesday. Because like you said, working, I know people get home from work and have to immediately play. I know multiple people do that on for the HGC Open, and I do know
a lot of people.
I know people that couldn't even play in the Open division because their work went later than the start time.
Yeah, I mean, you had a good friend. I remember you saying that was the case where he just had class on Mondays at that time at 4:00. So there's no way that he was going to be done with class and could be home. And so it kind of sucks because it basically means that there's a whole group of people that can't ever play in the tournaments. And so that's kind of a bummer. But I mean, you're right that they have the HGC on the weekend, and that everybody would probably much rather watch HGC than the Open. But, there has to be a better way to do that, or really take advantage of those bye weeks that HGC has and slot some tournaments in there, because if nothing's happening during a bye week, everyone's used to watching HOTS on the weekend, they'll probably just show up for the tournament as well. They're like, oh, usually there's HOTS on at this time every weekend. And if there's a bye week, and there is a bye week coming up. So I really wish that they would have taken advantage of that and sort of made it easier for people, because you really only have to win place top 8, I think, in any of the weekly tournaments, and that basically qualifies you. Or last sort of split, that's what happened. Was it the points work out that those teams, same teams always win, same teams always get top 4, so those are locked in, but 5 through 16 is really up in the air.
Yes.
So you really only have to do really, really well in one tournament in order to make that finals.
It is. I don't know. Going back to the weekend Open, it's just unfortunate because there is a trade-off. It's you could have convenience for the players, or you can kind of get light cast on to the Open, but you can't really get both. The way you're not going to achieve, a day that everyone can play, because the weekend has already been taken up by the HGC Pro Division. So I don't really know which decision is the best. It's just kind of a pick your poison moment.
Definitely something to think about, and hopefully that they think of something to do so that we can enjoy both parts of it. We have that probably on Wednesdays. Oh yeah, that Wednesdays too, I guess, doesn't work because Heroes Hype is on Wednesdays. So, but maybe Thursday, Friday, Tuesday, Thursday, some way to get HOTS spread out. I mean, and there's a lot of things that goes on with HOTS, there's Heroes Hype, there's the Bloodlust tournament, there's Open, there's HGC, there's all these other events that are happening. There's tons of other tournaments and leagues and all that kind of stuff that's happening. So it's actually pretty busy with HOTS, I guess.
Yeah.
That's good. That's not a bad problem.
No, not at all. Speaking of the amateur scene, let's roll on into our amateur roundup.
Hype. So Heroes Hype week 4 was last week. And the finals, week 4 is this week. And then next week, I don't even know what day it is anymore. This week is the last week of Heroes Hype, the weekly series. It's week 5. And then next week is the big Heroes Hype Tempo Series 2 finals. So it's when the top 8 teams get invited and they play for all the money and the prizes and all the fun stuff. And we actually will be doing the pre-show for that next week. So we'll be on for Tuesday. We'll talk about that later. But we'll be on Wednesday, an hour before Heroes Hype final starts. We'll be live at 5 on the Heroes Hype channel. And we'll be talking about all the different matchups and interviewing. We'll have some interviews with a couple of the teams and the captains. So that's going to be really, really fun. And Haloran will be on that with us. But last week, sort of one thing that I want to talk about last week is that Imported Support showed up and played last week. We really haven't seen them around. They've played in the Open Cups, and they did pretty well in the Open Cup. I think they got second. It was Hold It Down was first, and then they got second. But it's nice to see Imported Support back, because I really have been like a fan of that team, and they've been around for a really, really long time. And Drayden is playing with them again.
Yeah.
I guess is the way to say that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they played last week, and the finals was between them and the 101st Northumberland Fusiliers, which is Donkeys Are Us, which is AKA Donkeys Are Us, AKA Nice, AKA Four Guys and a Legend, AKA Four Guys in Picante,
AKA 2ARC.
AKA 2ARC.
They've been around for a long time.
They have, and they're pretty solidly, I would say, the top 5 teams I feel like are pretty set right now as far as like the amateur scene is concerned. Hold It Down is the front runner. They have so many ex-pros. That team is like the ex-pro team. They have people that have been in the scene for a while in the amateur scene, looking to like move up into the pro. And so they're a really solid team. They've basically won everything. They win Bloodlust. They win the Opens. They're the powerhouse team. Imported Support, I feel like is the second team. They're like since they've came back, they've really like shown that they still are like a contender for the amateur team title. That I think they really want to go to the Crucible and win this time.
Mm-hmm.
In those other top teams, and who I think are maybe we're going to see in the Heroes Hype finals next week is the 101st Northumberland Fusiliers, that team. They play by different names in our different tournaments. It's so confusing. So I think that they'll definitely be there. Firm Handshake has had like a really pretty consistently been finishing top 4 also in like most of the tournaments.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really nice to see, those guys. Lex has been around for like a while in the amateur scene. He's been on that team for a while, which used to be Miasma-ish. That team definitely is in there. And then also, what other team has been placing pretty well lately?
In Open or in Heroes Hype?
In Heroes Hype, I guess.
Flame is Lame team.
Oh yeah, Flame is Lame too. And they do pretty well in the Open too. I feel like they're all like in that sort of top 5 teams. Those are the teams. So we should see some of them. Hold It Down doesn't play in the Heroes Hype thing, but they're too cool. But those other teams I definitely think are teams that we'll see in the finals next week. And you can actually like check the full write-up from last week on the Heroes Hype website. Flag Rights, all of those, they're really great. They have like breakdowns of all the final matches. If you miss any of that, you can also check out the Heroes Hype YouTube because we have the full tournaments on there as well. So if you ever missed a tournament and you want to see what happened that week, definitely check out the YouTube and look at that. And then we also have the amateur trends now on the Heroes Hype webpage. So every week Flag breaks down what sort of like the pick inclusion rate is for all of the heroes. And so like we're seeing Anub and Dahaka have sort of fallen off as far as the picks are concerned. And Stitches is definitely like the tank. I feel like Stitches is always picked.
Yeah, Stitches is in a really good spot right now. I mean, he has been for a while. And it's just kind of funny to see him now because the last time he got changed was actually a while back when they upgraded his slam build, added in, all that damage that he's doing now. But just kind of goes to show when something does well kind of on the global stage, then people kind of try to adopt that. But
because you've been on the Stitches hype train for months. You were on the Stitches hype train before it got like popular.
when he got reworked, I was playing him like every game because no one would pick him, and it was just free wins because people didn't realize how much damage he was actually doing. If you hit level 16 and you're even in a game, you probably just win from that point on, just because the slam build with the slow, applying the dot, and if you have anybody on your team that has Executioner, I mean, you're giving them Executioner every 5 seconds, so it just becomes in this insane snowball after 16. So yeah, it's funny when people kind of don't realize how good something did get until they have to see it either used against them or used on a global stage.
Which another example of that is the Korean Cho'Gall sort of. I don't know if it's an obsession. I wouldn't say it's an obsession, but the the sprinkling of Korean Cho'Gall has sort of affected NA amateur tournaments that we actually see, and we actually see Cho'Gall a lot. Not a lot, but more often than you would think that you would see Cho'Gall in like a competitive environment.
I mean, Cho'Gall's pretty strong. If you get him on the right map with the right draft, he's really hard to stop, and we've seen that quite a bit in different games when he is picked. I believe it actually was imported that would run that. They used it the last Crucible. Like they used it in the open tournaments as well as using it in the Crucible, and they had success with it as well. So, um, yeah, he's really strong if you know how to play around him. It's just kind of one of those things like playing around an Abathur or playing around. You just have to know how the comp works and what you have to do to make it win, and then it becomes very, very strong.
And like the draft is super important if you're picking Cho'Gall, because like you don't want to, you can't pick Cho'Gall 1-2. Like you have to pick him at the end, and then you also can't like lead people to the fact that you're taking Cho'Gall on your bans and your picks, because that'll happen all the time. Just like sitting in scrims and stuff when I used to manage, like I would hear you guys basically be like, oh, look, they might pick Cho'Gall, like let's think about that, because like it's predictive sometimes the way that people pick and ban that's what they're going to pick up at the end.
Well, if you see an Ariel picked up with like a Leoric or a Tychus band, I mean it's pretty obvious that that's what a team is kind of working towards. So you got to find ways to kind of draft around that. So you draft like Ariel plus, something on a map that makes sense for like that. That's what that makes sense for. So you pick like a
So
solo.
she's going to enable.
You'd pick like, yeah, Ariel solo laner. No, and you leave that open. So then they're like, oh, what hope generator are we going to pick? And then you're just like,
they think
well,
you're Gul'dan or Valor or
yeah,
something.
and then you just pick
Yeah.
Cho'Gall.
Oh, that makes
So
sense.
like on shrines, you could take like Ariel Dahaka, and that doesn't really like you have the Ariel there, and then Dahaka for your solo, which is a hero that can clear waves really fast and kind of you know make up for the fact that you are actually down a body. Like you can move around the map really well, and then then you just Cho'Gall them the next rotation, and they get sad.
And then they all have to use the sad cloud. Um,
It actually works really well out of first pick, because you just first pick Ariel, and they don't really first pick Ariel doesn't really tell you anything, and then you 2-3 it, and then you get to ban. So you get your first ban, then you get to ban immediately after your second and third pick. So that's another scenario you can pick up Cho'Gall.
Yeah, that's a good point. We've seen Genji is still the number one assassin. KT's had a little bit of an uptick in play. Why do you think KT's had a rise in play so much?
I mean, I think Mene showed us that KT's always good, just because it's a ranged assassin that does have. He's the only ranged assassin that has a stun, and it's a very far ranged stun. And so if
it's great follow up stun, it's a great opening stun.
Yeah, if you are kind of in need of more CC, or you're going for a full blow up comp, that's what KT excels at. I mean, he has the CC follow up as well as heavy burst damage. He has insane wave clear. And once he gets 16, if you have that lockdown with the double flame strike, I mean the damage that he can do is really strong.
I see a lot of KT in gold. Everyone picks convection.
Yeah,
so that makes me sad.
That's no bueno. Because the other two talents are so good too. Like Mana Addict is really good. I mean, I see convection taken at the GM level, which makes me cringe too. Like,
is it just like more damage? Like I do damage, give me more damage.
Yeah, which is insane, because the mana issues that KT has is solved with taking Mana Addict.
Yeah,
totally. Like, you have when you take convection, you have huge issues with mana. I mean, like KT level 1.
Yeah, because you got to empower your Q all the time, and
KT level 1, it takes like 3 or 4 flame strikes plus like doing like 2 living bombs, and you're out of mana. Like he's really mana intensive, so it makes no sense to take the damage too is not
It's negligible.
It's not anything special. Plus, if you die, you lose it, and if you don't finish it, it's such a huge hit to his kit that, I mean, it does more harm than good most of the time. Because when people see that taken as well, they will just hunt you down. Like they will give up. They will give up their life to kill you, like just to screw you over. It kind of is that the same thing that happens with Medivh. Like you'll see people make like a risky dive, they'll die, but at least they killed, the Medivh and reset his stacks.
I just want to slip this in there. Talking about bad talents. If I have to see another lava wave, I will like flip my desk. And it's problematic too because like one of the Australian teams like took Lava Wave, and so now people like feel justified to take Lava Wave, and I just feel like there's no justification to ever take Lava Wave. Unless I'm wrong.
I don't know.
I may be wrong.
I have not seen Lava Wave yet, so I'll consider myself one of the lucky ones.
Be lucky because people take that crap. And then they just shoot that Lava Wave down the freaking lane and nothing happens.
I've seen it once, but I've seen it once and I actually agreed with it because it was on Braxis and we were losing. So like we hit 10 as the other team got 100 Zerg Wave. And the guy was just like, screw it. And he just ripped the Lava Wave down the lane and it killed the whole Zerg Wave. Like it kills almost all the Zerg.
I guess that makes more sense.
It would have to be on a map that just does not have very much space outside of lanes. So Braxis, if you look at it, it's all lane pretty much. Like there is the middle portion, but there's not a lot of like real estate in between the lanes. But I would agree with that. If you are losing on Braxis and you don't have very much wave clear to deal with a Zerg Wave, that might justify the pick, but I don't know.
If you don't have wave clear on Braxis, you're basically screwed anyway. So.
Yeah. But
that's like the big thing. I just think it's that people don't. It's like smashes. I have this theory that people don't pick talents that are obvious when you miss them at gold, and like seriously, because you don't want to be called out because you like miss a mosh or like you miss a smash, and like smash is like pretty obviously when it happens.
Like fear.
So it's like it's like, oh my god, don't even talk like this stupid
Rain of Destruction.
Oh god, you see that too. Gold's a nightmare. Nobody get there. Just count yourself lucky that you're not there. Let's see. Uther still going strong as like the support choice. Like you're saying, his kit is so great that solo support Uther is like really strong. Uther in a double support meta is really strong. I still love Divine Storm. Like I wish that people took that more. I get like, and it gets like melee comps. It's like a little bit more feasible.
It's good against heroes with high mobility because it's a very large AoE. So it's like really good against Genji, Illidan, Tracer. It just depends on the comp. I think,
if you don't have anybody to enable with Divine Shield to a certain extent, like it could be worth it to take Storm.
The only issue with that is that like lately we have been seeing Uther in that double support with the one hyper carry. So like your main goal is either keeping that hyper carry alive or having to keep the other support alive. So that's where that does come in handy. But if you do have a wombo combo, I mean, Divine Storm's really good.
It's fun too. It's like, it's nice to shit on everybody's day. Like it's like that meme where it's like everyone like flamings in the background. Like that's what it's like. You're just like, suck on my hammers. I don't know where I was going with that one. Sort of like the last amateur thing I guess I want to catch up on is Bloodlust. The amateur round of Bloodlust is finished. Hold It Down and Donkeys Are Us got 1-2 in that tournament. July 28th is the finals, I believe. That's 10 days away, and I think that's Bloodlust is really confusing to me, but I believe that's when they actually play the pros, and that's like the big event.
Yeah, those two teams then go into another tournament. So it was a tournament to qualify for the actual Bloodlust tournament, where I know since B-Step was no more, they actually pulled in Roll20.
Oh,
so
that's cool.
Now Roll20's in it too. So it was, let's see if I can remember. Freedom was one of them for sure. Roll20, No Tomorrow, and Tempo. Those are the four.
Oh, cool.
If I remember correctly, those are the four.
I think that sounds right.
Roll 20
It
for sure.
changed a few times, so yeah.
Roll 20 is 100%. I know they took this. Roll 20 and Tempo 100%. I know those two are in.
Cool.
Because Roll 20 actually ended up taking that B-Step spot because they were not originally in, and then Freedom, I'm pretty sure, is in. So it should be pretty interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting that because those teams that are playing are the ones that are doing really well in HGC too. HGC is like this crazy, like I didn't think where we are in the weeks of HGC that the score board, the rankings would be the way that they are. So it's kind of interesting.
Yep.
I thought that maybe it would be more of the team, it would be closer to what we may see in the Crucible, right? That there might be teams, and it still could be. There could be teams in Bloodlust that are actually going to play against these teams. Like Hold It Down, I'm pretty sure if Hold It Down stays together, like they're probably going to go to the Crucible. And so it's going to be like, and I'm sure they practice against these teams all the time. There's a lot of like, scrimming that happens between pros and the amateur teams, some of them. So, but this is like a big tournament where it's going to be out there and to see how well Hold It Down is going to do in the professional environment, really.
Yeah, the issue is, like, even when you have players that were pro, I can almost guarantee they're not practicing as much as the pro teams, right? Because that's no longer your job. And even if the ex-pro players are, maybe the other players on your team can't commit to that yet, to that many hours of practice, just because they might not have the financial stability because you aren't a pro player yet. So that's where I still see the gap being maybe a bit of a problem. So these amateur teams are going to have to work smarter, not harder. They're going to have to be really efficient with their time if they want to pass up these pro teams.
Right. Yeah. Because you never know who is actually going to be in that Crucible. It may not be, there may be a really good team in that Crucible, so it's going to be pretty hard, but it's definitely interesting to watch. All right. I think that's everything. We have another Open Cup in a few weeks. We'll make sure to keep everybody informed on that. Make sure to check out, if you haven't, make sure to register for Heroes Hype tomorrow. It's the last week. And then we'll see everybody next week for the finals. Again, we're doing the pre-show, so we won't be on Tuesday. We'll be on Wednesday at 5 PDT, 5 Pacific. Like I said, make sure that you go and subscribe to the Heroes Hype YouTube so you can get notified of when this show is up there. If you ever miss one, if you ever miss a tournament, all of the tournaments are up there. And then all the other stuff that we have, we're going to be having some more stuff added to the YouTube in the coming weeks. So make sure that you go and subscribe to that. Make sure that you follow us on Twitch so you get notifications when we go live, and also on Twitter. So you just keep track of everything they were doing. Like, our stream team is huge now. It's awesome. There's so many people on the stream team, so there's always somebody to watch on the Heroes Hype channel for HOTS action. So make sure that you follow the Twitter there. Grizz, where can everybody find you?
Right below, you can find me at Grizz_GG on both, should I say, Twitter and Twitch. And yeah.
Awesome. You can find me on Twitter at MaybeBuzz. And you can find Ether somewhere, but I don't know where he is right now, so you can't find him anywhere. Where in the world is Ether? San Diego. But yeah, that's the show for today. Thanks everybody for stopping by and hanging out with us while we talk about amateur stuff. And we will see everybody next week and the pre-show for Heroes Hype Live. Heroes Hype Live pre-show of the Heroes Hype Tempo Series Finals.
Have a good night, everybody.
Bye.